Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to week 48 of these podcasts. Today we're going to talk, and I'm going to offer, I hope, some advice about initiations from a shamanic perspective.
A listener wrote and asked if it was safe for her to deliberately experience initiations without some oversight. Could you speak to that, please?
Yes. There are certainly many shamanic initiations that we learn about in our study of shamanism that are absolutely safe for us to do on our own. What I would advise the listener is this: if he or she is not already in some kind of program with a good, shamanic teacher who is guiding and mentoring them, then they might want to find somebody who they could touch base with, who might mentor them, who might guide them, even if it's from a distance, to understand, the process of the initiation, and also how to prepare and how to unfold what occurs after the initiation is complete. So my answer is kind of mixed. Is it safe? Yes. Would I suggest that a person have some mentoring and some guidance? Absolutely. There are some, initiations that we teach and do within a long program that students know they can take and replicate for themselves on a regular basis. Some of those are initiations that occur within a journey. Others of them are, initiations that are more like on the outer, physical plane. But my recommendation is that somebody who doesn't have, a good mentor or guide, somebody that they're connected with, should proceed with caution.
Is an ayahuasca ceremony an deliberate shamanic initiation? And to do an ayahuasca ceremony, would you have to go to South America?
The whole concept of ayahuasca as a ceremony is a somewhat controversial subject in modern day North American shamanism. And here's why. Yes, an ayahuasca ceremony is, in fact, a very powerful initiation performed by the shamans of many countries in South America and Central America. It's ancient. It's a plant. Ayahuasca is a plant that has been being used by the South American shamans for millennia, a long, 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 long time. And it's a plant that takes a person on an internal journey over which they truly have no control. It's a hallucinatory drug, and it's meant to allow the shaman to expand their vision or their view of spirit and their relationship with spirit and the immense power, the vastness of the presence of spirit. So having said that, what has occurred in our culture here in North America is that many people who are seeking, quote, enlightenment choose to travel to places like Peru and Ecuador, many go to Peru because that's where it is most common, this ayahuasca ceremony. And they go there for the purpose of, being with a shaman and or a village and having participating in an ayahuasca ceremony. There are some people who think that is wonderful and that is a great objective and a good thing to do. And then there are many other shamanic practitioners like myself who would say proceed with great caution. And there are reasons for that. One is that as a culture here in North America, our psyche is not really geared to ingest a substance that is indigenous to another continent and used by shamans of that continent. Their physiology, their biology, their culture, everything is in alignment with that, but ours is not necessarily. So for instance, if somebody who's been on a shamanic path for a long time has gone through a lot of initiations, they go to Peru, and part of their experience with the shamans of Peru or Ecuador or other countries within South or Central America, their experience is wonderful, and part of that experience is that they get to ingest ayahuasca once or twice or more. It might be a positive experience for them, and it might not. Where I really draw the line is in two ways for myself as a concerned modern-day shamanic practitioner. I say, unless you have a lot of experience as a shamanic practitioner and have been through a lot of initiations, I wouldn't go to Peru and do that. I wouldn't go anywhere and do that because you're putting yourself in the hands of another who, mixes this potion, and you have no experience of knowing how you, as an individual, biologically, emotionally, and spiritually, is going to respond to this very, very powerful hallucinatory drug. I can say that in my years of practice as a shamanic practitioner, I have worked with clients, many clients, who have come back from that experience and are pretty broken. It created like a true psychic crisis, and in a couple of cases, a complete mental breakdown. And I cite that as a person going into this as if they're going to go to McDonald's and order a Diet Coke, and it's like, okay, so I'm having a Diet Coke today, and have really no concept of how this plant works with the psyche and the biology and the spirit of a person. So I strongly disagree with the idea of people who are uninitiated, who just want to go have a week in Peru, going there and doing an ayahuasca ceremony. I think it's irresponsible and not advisable. The other reason I have a problem with it is that because of our financial system here in the United States, and the fact that most of us here have an abundance that is unheard of by the villagers of most South American countries, we have created this industry of going to South American countries, specifically Peru, with our money and hiring shamans to perform this ayahuasca ceremony with us. What has now occurred, which many of my colleagues would agree with, is that we have created a situation where people who are not truly shamans, who don't truly have long-term experience with the ayahuasca plant, are offering their services to us white, uninitiated, wealthy Americans to, yeah, sure, I'll mix up some ayahuasca for you, and taking them through a ceremony which is not safe. And that's part of the reason people are coming back from these ceremonies in a fairly broken way, because they're not working with somebody who truly understands the sacred nature of this ceremony and has years and years and years of experience with working with the spirit of this plant. They found somebody who is in it for the money because we have the money. So I consider that very unsafe. Another reason I don't believe ayahuasca ceremony should be performed here in the United States, even if the plant is brought here by, an ayahuasquero, which is what they're called, is that the plant is not indigenous to this country. It doesn't grow here. It's not a part of our vibration. And for that reason, I believe that, and secondly, as an aside, it is illegal. So, but there are people who come to the United States with ayahuasca for the purpose of creating ayahuasca ceremonies for people here in the States. And I've heard many a story of people getting violently ill on the physical plane, and having some pretty serious emotional, mental results resulting from that. So, is it an initiation? Which is the initial question. I'm sorry, I've sort of gone on here for a bit, but yes. Ayahuasca, the ingestion of ayahuasca, is a shamanic initiation in its pure core, in its original purpose. But it's an initiation that has, as I see it, been abused by our American sense of wanting to do something unique and like, yeah, I could tick that off my list. I've been to Peru and I did ayahuasca. That's not a good reason to do it.
This reminds me of Henry Miller, the author. When he was interviewed about drugs and what he thought about them, he said, hallucinogenic drugs in particular, he said they're great in that they can show you where you want to get to spiritually. But to use them as the way to get there continuously is being irresponsible. So sometimes people seek out ayahuasca because they want to know, they want that, they're really seeking the spiritual experience, and their body, mind, and spirit is not sufficiently prepared for the power that comes through them. And I'm hearing you say they're not held well, in that the containment has to be important. Is there a way to get those glimpses of enlightenment, of where you're trying to get to, of the flash of spirit that is safe here in North America?
Absolutely. There are so many spiritual practices that can take you there, and some of that is, learning how to do a shamanic journey and experiencing the journey process and the expansiveness of these other realms that we get to visit. And the longer you practice journeying, the greater and greater and greater that experience becomes. And so, people have experiences of dynamic explosions of consciousness, of spiritual evolution as a result of simply doing shamanic journeys without the drug.
Also, as you were speaking about ayahuasca, I was thinking about the honeybees and how it's important to take honey that's local because it helps you with the it helps you with strengthening your immunity to your own environment for your physical body. So is there a kind of spiritual honey for working with initiations?
A spiritual honey. I would say the spiritual honey would be to create community, to come together with others who not only have, potentially share some of your beliefs, but who also will challenge you about some of your own way of being or your own beliefs or your own direction. But more importantly, I think the local spiritual honey is community.
Tribe.
Yeah, it's the tribe, creating tribe.
Can you give listeners some encouraging words about initiations and advice about who they can talk with if they are experiencing initiations?
Yes, I would say, it's important for people to know that even though initiations can be scary in the moment, they can be overwhelming, they can create frustration, anger, fear, all of those things, that if people can just hold on to and trust that there is a greater purpose. It isn't visible to them in the moment. It isn't necessarily pleasant. It doesn't seem on the outset like it's serving their higher purpose in any kind of way. And yet, if one can move into trusting that that is true, that there is that core truth, that there is something here that is beyond language, beyond my limited human mind, that is for my greater good and my spiritual evolution. If we can do that, then it makes what otherwise might be intolerable experiences a little bit more tolerable and potentially even expansive in the moment. And the other piece that I would suggest is that, if somebody out there in the listening audience is going through some profound initiatory experiences, reach out. Make community, as we were talking about before. That is the spiritual balm. That is the honey, your local honeybee is finding and building community. Find others you can talk to. Share your experience with others. Find a mentor. Gather wisdom and knowledge. Join a shamanic circle of some kind. Or if that isn't available to you, use resources available to you on the internet or through Facebook, or, there are so many Facebook pages now that are geared to talking about shamanism and shamanic experiences. The same is true with, many, many people who have websites like mine where you can gather information, inspiration, guidance, knowledge, all of that. So reach out. Don't stay insular, because that is the path to not being able to expand that initiatory experience into something that will be helpful for you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add on this topic?
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Your questions were fabulous, and I just want to say that if anybody out there in the listening audience is going through some difficult initiations, use the resources available to you. Write me an email. Check into my website. Stay connected. That is the key.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life We hope to have you join us next time.